Disney Lorcana just announced on Twitter that the store championships for Rise of the Floodborn are only allowed to be held on the weekends of, well, I assume the weekends between April 19th and April 28th. Now, I guess I was kind of assuming that maybe there was going to be a longer time frame to have them. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Other games have an even shorter time frame where everything has to happen over a weekend, but it doesn't mean there isn't going to be any implications of this. So let's take it to a look and dive in. So essentially, like I said, there's really only 2 weekends, assuming that the stores actually have the events on the weekends that this can happen. There's the weekend of April 19th and 20th, and the weekend of April 27th and 28th. So really, there's only 4 days that you can actually play in the store championships. Obviously, your store needs to apply. I think this is good that they actually need to apply for a second time because what I think this allows them to do is basically weed out the stores that have not actually held a ton of events up until this point. Maybe there's some stores that are unscrupulously selling the kits without actually having leagues or just, would have taken the promos, put them right on eBay, etc. So I actually think this is a good thing because this means essentially if they go back in their records, all the stores that are going to apply for this are actually holding scheduled Arcana events. The one thing that this does do, of course, is with only having really 2 weekends to be able to play the event instead of over a season, a month or two, etc. The real issue is if there are a lot of stores in your area, they are going to overlap as to what days they can actually hold the event. I mean, you physically can't be in more than one place at the same time. So realistically, there's only 4 opportunities that you're going to have to play in events each Saturday and each Sunday. So realistically, people can only really gain the prizes a maximum of 4 times. Of course, if this was spread over like a month or two time frame and there was no stringent time that you could actually have these, there's just an opportunity for more people to have them and gain the prizing over that amount of time. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I think there are certain people that where it's going to be a big deal where they wanted to grind it out and try to play for a couple $1,000s in prizes every single week for the next 2 months. But I'll talk later about why I think this is actually a good thing for the game in general, looking at it from a larger scope perspective. So, of course, as you know below, the main reason why you're playing in these events are the prizes. Besides the bragging rights to be able to say that you're a store champion of the Rise of the Floodborn season, there are 2 prizes on the line. The playmat, which is really cool. They're all this enchanted stitch. I guess I'm not sure if they say Into the Inklands in the bottom right-hand corner because it is the Rise of the Floodborn Championship, but it may say that. I'm not positive. This is just a picture that I grabbed. The top 2 winners will receive the playmat, and as far as we understand it, the top 4 winners will receive the Enchanted Stitch, which means obviously there are way less playmats out there in the world than there are of the enchanted card themselves. However, you can only ever use 1 playmat at a time, and your deck can obviously have up to 4 Enchanted Stitches. So even though I do think the playmat is going to fetch a pretty penny, I actually believe that the Enchanted Stitch will arguably fetch more, if not the same, if not more of the amount of money, even though there's going to technically be double of them out there. The one thing I'll say is even though these events are happening over a 2-week time frame, obviously the total number of these things out there in the world doesn't change. However, it is my belief that what's actually going to happen is the amount of them that are out there in the market is what's going to matter. So there's a real point I want to make here. There's a difference between what is actually available and what is in total available. So as we know, let's just say there's 100, I'm just making up a number. Let's just say there's 500 stores that have these. That means in total, there's, 4,000 stitches and 1,000 playmats that are out there in the world. However, when you have less events, you have the opportunity for less people to actually want to part with their prizes. There's going to be less opportunities. I mean, there's only really 4 days that you can actually play in these events. The stores in your area may not be running them all 4 days. They may not coordinate to have Saturday, Sunday. So you may even have 2 or less events that you can actually play in. Obviously, these are not the easiest things to win. So there's going to be a lot of players that are going to look at them like trophies. When I play in other events, I can whip out my Stitch playmat. I can play with the Stitch Enchanted if I really want to. I can get it graded and have it as a prize. I can get it graded and just keep it as part of my collection. So in my opinion, even though the total number of this card and the playmat out there in the world are going to be the same, whether or not this happened over a 2-week period or not, what is going to matter is you're just simply going to have more players that are not adding them to the pool out there of actually that are able to be purchased, which means, yes, you could say this is one of 2,000 stitches or one of 1,000 playmats, but in reality, there are not 2,000 or 1,000 of these out there in the market because not everybody's going to want to be selling them. So that means the actual amount that are available is going to be way less. And the 2 week thing, in my opinion, it does matter because somebody that wins, and say somebody wins a stitch and they want to actually collect a full playset of them. So there's just less opportunities they have to go win them. Maybe maybe they have something going on the next weekend. Maybe they did, maybe and they didn't have something going on, say 3 weeks from now, and they're like, oh, okay, well, if this event's running for a month, then I have an opportunity to pick up my second stitch or something like that. Well, they don't have that opportunity anymore. So there's simply less chances for them to win. So there's going to be more people. Maybe somebody that wins one to begin with says, I'm just going to go out and get the other three. I might as well play with the one I have, or I might as well do this, etc. So I just believe for various different reasons, even though the pure number of them does not change due to the 2 week time frame versus say that it was over a month or two, I do believe that there will be less of them in the wild to be able to be purchased. As time goes on, there are simply going to be way less of these that are available. I have no doubt about the fact that there will just be less of them available as time goes on. These are going to be true collector's items. And then for each season, if they give out a different card during the next season, you're just going to find less of them out there. This Stitch Enchanted is not like other Enchanteds. This playmat is not like other playmats. There are not going to be additional opportunities to get them past this 2 week time frame. If you look at Enchanted Elsa, for example, that goes for like $800 or more, it's definitely possible that they could just print more of the first chapter tomorrow. They're not going to have more Rise of the Floodborn Store Championships, which means that even though the price you may see right away for the Stitch might be lower, in the long run, the price this card is going to have is going to go up in price because there are not going to be more of them in the market. So you have two situations here. You have a card that can only go up in value as more people want it, and it's a playable card to begin with. It's a staple card to begin with, to be honest with you. And like I said, more players are going to want to hold on to it as trophies, or they just want to keep it. So there's just less of them out there in the market. So if you want my opinion, I actually believe that this 2 week time frame rises the price on the Stitch and the playmat. Maybe not to astronomical levels, but it is going to rise the price in general because you just simply cannot grind around every week for a 2 month period to go find more stitches. You only have a maximum of 4 opportunities to win them, which means even if you're like the best player in the world, you're only ever going to get a play set of them. If you want to keep them, then there's your play set. Good for you. But if you don't, no one on eBay or TCG Player or any other, or Facebook or any other place is going to say them, is ever going to say, I have more than 4 of them to sell, unless they're obviously selling them for other people. But no one is ever going to have a huge inventory of these, which means the price has to go up because they're negotiating with one person all the time for their one card. Will some people dump them? Yes. I think the best time to buy these is going to be immediately after that first weekend, and they can only go up in value from there. Especially once people start getting them graded, if they start getting graded at high levels, because there's so limited of them out there in the long run. I do believe that that's your best time to pick them up, and I do believe the 2 week is going to drive the price up. So what's my overall opinion of what this finally means? Well, I will say it really depends on the type of player that you are. If you're the type of player that was looking forward to like a 2 month season of grinding out these, playing for stitches, playing for playmats all the time, I'm sorry that's just not going to happen. I think most games usually have these types of events over a 1 weekend time frame, so that's not actually even possible. These prizes are going to be worth more money than potentially other games have, so I think there is that factor as well. But in the long run, I don't think this is that big of a deal. This is just the rules we have to play within. I also think that if you had a longer season to be able to play with these, what I've noticed over time in games that have long seasons like this, that we're giving out promos at each event, is that you kind of just start to get bored at the end of them. And I don't want that for the game. I want the excitement level, and I want the reason to play, to be out there for a while. Sure, would I like 2 months? But there's not going to be that opportunity. There wasn't going to be that type of opportunity. So yeah, I think this really only hurts the super try-hard grinder type players. At the end of the day, we're not really playing for like points or like qualification or anything like that. So we're really only playing for prizes. And yes, if we were to spread it over a longer period of time, those individual players would have a better opportunity to win more prizes. But I think, giving forcing those players to make a decision as to where they're going to show up is probably better for the community in general. Like there's just a better chance of spreading these prizes out throughout. I do think the prizes are going to go up in value because there's less of them out there. I do think that it is an intense 2 week period of time. I think this is going to be the pinnacle of organized play for into the Inklands in the April timeframe. I know the season goes longer than that, but I think this is going to be the big thing. And the final thing I'll say is I want you to think of it this way. If the seasons had gone on a longer period of time, what incentive would there for you to be to playing in other events? So let's just say, I don't know, there's 8 stores in your area that could have supported this. I'm not even sure there could possibly be that many, but I'm saying like, within a 4 hour radius that you were willing to drive to. So a lot of tryhards, myself included, would be willing to do that kind of distance over, let's just say, a month period instead of 2 weeks. I won't take it out to the 2 month period. And during that time frame, over the next 4 weeks, your local store had like a 5K scheduled or like a 3K scheduled or like a 1K scheduled, etc. What incentive would there be for you to go to that event over playing for the Stitch and the playmat? Like those prizes, in my opinion, are going to be worth more unless we're talking about tournaments that have very, very high prize pools. And I think those third party events would have really suffered if this organized play season would have gone on longer. And I think Ravensburger knows that. They need these third party events to survive. For example, there's like a Star City Con every single month. If this was to overlap with some of them, which I don't believe it's going to now, at least for this season, like the attendance of that event would be much reduced, especially in that Atlanta area where I think the April one is going to be held. So I do believe that there is an unwritten rule between Ravensburger and the LGSs that are supporting the game right now through third party. They don't want to overlap with that too much. They don't want to kill the momentum that these stores have been building, or just these areas have been building, having events of that type. So think of it that way. We can't play organized play every single week. We have to be able to play and support the third party events as well. Once regionals come, like they're not going to be every week either, in my opinion. So like they're going to be spread out as well. So I think in the long run, this is fine. Having a 2 week period is totally fine. Like I said, it is going to drive up the price of the prizes, in my opinion, but I think it's a good thing. What do you guys think? If you agree, whether you agree with me or not, and you like this kind of content and you want my opinion on it, just smash that like button. But do leave me a comment as to what you feel below. I believe most of the comments are going to be saying that it's not enough time because people, would rather have more time because of X number of weeks, or they want to be able to go to multiple stores, etc. I understand all those arguments. It's just that you have to draw the line somewhere. Everyone's going to have a different story as to why or why not they can't show up to certain things. So I think the best thing to do is probably just think about what's the easiest logistical thing that you can do for an entire area. And giving 2 weeks instead of like a week is obviously much better. So anyway, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think the prizes are going to go up, but let me know what you think below. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Have a good day.